The morning after their marriage, Vine woke up feeling a bit better because her mind and heart were racing last night because of stress, anxiety, and different thoughts about her marriage. Her head hurt a lot, but she didn't say anything to anyone because she is already habitual of suffering alone without telling anyone about it. She looked beside her and didn't even find Jungkook on the bed. She got up and went outside the room. As soon as she reached downstairs, she saw Jungkook setting plates on the dining table. Her eyes narrowed, watching him doing that with utmost cleanliness when he noticed her, staring at him. Jungkook, oh, Vine, how are you feeling now? Vine, what do you mean? Jungkook, you looked really tense last night, and you didn't even say anything about it. So I thought some healthy breakfast might light your mood as it's your first day here, he said, indulged in his work without looking at her. She came to the table and was surprised to see a lot of dishes there. Her eyes widened as she asked, did you make all of this? For me? Why? Jungkook looked at her with amusement. What do you mean, why? Can't I make breakfast for my wife? They looked at each other for some seconds, their eyes locked, an unknown connection building between them. She blinked and looked away as she cleared her throat. I mean, you didn't. Why? Thank you so much. I don't know how to take it. He came closer to her with a smiling face, tugging her beautiful, wavy hair behind her ear, while their eyes were intensely locked with each other. Jungkook, get used to your new life. Things like this will keep happening until you forget your past life. And when you look back to all of it one day, you will realize how strong you were to suffer all of that alone. Tears welled up in her eyes when she heard about her past life. It seemed like he knows everything about it. But how? Jungkook went to sit on the table, leaving her alone with her thoughts and tears. Vine used to get abused by her parents a lot, so much that one just couldn't imagine. But she suffered all of that quietly to save her younger brother for him. Ever since her mother died, her dad married another woman, a rich, abusive woman who did give birth to a child, her younger stepbrother. But she didn't care one bit about him. She looks at him as a burden, but she had to give birth to prove her love for dad. Now she abuses both of them as a habit and doesn't even think if she is doing anything wrong. Her brother, who just turned 10 this year, she never thought of him as her stepbrother. He grew up with her, and he's like a family for her. She always took care of him, stood for him no matter how much she had to be punished for that. She did it gladly. She did try to escape 2 or more times, but she would fail, and her brother had to pay a price. She did everything she could think of to escape the situation, or at least save her brother, but she failed every time. The woman, although Vine didn't want to admit, but she was clever, smart, as if she went through all of that as well, and now taking her revenge from them. That's why she decided to just live there like she wants. Otherwise, her brother's life would be in danger. That's also the reason she had to marry Jungkook. The woman told Vine that if she married Jungkook, she would free her brother, and Vine didn't even think twice about it. She was just so happy about her brother that sacrificing her whole life seemed like a piece of cake. She knew that Jungkook was a mafia and how her life would be destroyed if she married a criminal like him. But she didn't care, and she certainly didn't expect anything like today from him. As she sat down at the table, trying to process everything that had happened and everything that was still to come, Jungkook watched her closely. He could see the turmoil in her eyes, the weight of her past bearing down on her fragile shoulders. But he also saw a flicker of determination, a glimmer of strength that had kept her going all this time. And he loved that about her. It gave him the motivation to save her, no matter what he did, what he had to do in return for that. He went to her house secretly and proposed this marriage to her mother. Knowing the kind of greedy woman she was, Jungkook offered some things according to her interests. And he threatened her with some videos of her abusing Vine that he came across in the park. That's how he knew about her, and from that day onward, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He tracked her house, not for stalking or any other bad intentions, but to see if she is still being abused. And to her amusement, it was worse than he thought. He got to know that she is being threatened with the life of her brother by installing a camera inside her house. He was furious to see all of that. That day he decided to save her, to give her a new life, to take her somewhere so far away from her past life that one day she doesn't even remember anything like that. He cleared his throat, breaking the heavy silence that enveloped them. I know you must have 1,000 questions running through your mind right now. He began, his voice gentle yet firm. But I want you to know that I didn't marry you for any ulterior motives. I married you because I saw something in you, something worth protecting. Vine looked up at him, her eyes searching his for any hint of deception. But all she found was sincerity, shining back at her. She didn't expect anything like that from him, or in fact from anyone. Someone making breakfast for her early in the morning while she sleeps in her bed feels like a dream for her. She felt a lump form in her heart as she struggled to find words to say anything. I I don't know what to say. She finally managed to whisper, her voice barely audible. Jungkook reached out and took her hand in his touch warm and comforting. You don't have to say anything right now, he said softly. Just know that I'm here for you, no matter what. His words washed over her like a soothing balm, calming the storm raging inside her. For the first time in a long time, Vine allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for a new beginning. She held his hand back and looked at him with hope. This was the first time she was going to ask help from anyone, with some hope that maybe he would be able to help her. She squeezed his hand and looked in his eyes. Then, can you help my brother? She immediately asked, vulnerability completely evident in her eyes. He pulled her hand and made her head rest in his embrace. Jungkook, he must be coming here any second. Then you will decide where he stays, here or abroad for his studies. Vine's eyes widened in surprise. She had never been this close to someone she didn't know from her past life, and the warmth of his embrace was both comforting and intimidating. She couldn't help but feel a wave of trust and hope wash over her, but she knew she couldn't rely entirely on him. What if he ends up betraying her too? What if he gets tired of me as well? What if she ends up being a burden to him? Those thoughts were only fair after the life she had experienced. Wine. But I'm scared, she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know what will happen if I make a mistake or you end up seeing me as a burden. Her tears fell on his shirt as he spoke. Jungkook's grip tightened around her, and he closed his eyes for a moment, collecting his thoughts. I know it's going to be difficult to have hope again, to trust someone again. I know because I went through all of that as well, he said, his voice soft and gentle. But I assure you, you won't need to rush things up. Trust me if you can, and I'll take you far away from here, where it's just you and me. A sense of relief washed over Vine as she listened to Jungkook's words. His promise of a new beginning offering a glimmer of light in the darkness that had consumed her for so long. She allowed herself to lean into his embrace, letting go of some of the weight she had been carrying on her shoulders. As they sat there in the silence, Vine let her tears fall away, and he stayed with her like a silent comfort. Once she was calmed, he pushed her away and looked in her eyes. I won't let anyone hurt you ever again. You're mine from now on, he said, and laid a soft, lingering kiss on her forehead. Vine blushed hardly, even when she didn't want to. Somehow, the warmth of his embrace and the support of his shoulders felt so safe for her that she wanted to live there forever. She couldn't even find words to thank him. But one day, she might return his favor by looking out for him as well. Their love story had begun, a tale of unexpected passion and devotion, one that would last a lifetime.